Hello, Martin.
Hey Debbie, how are you?
I'm fine. It's so good to talk to you again. This is getting to be an annual ritual.
Yeah, yeah.
And, oh, Martin, I am so in love with this film.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It,
That's
it,
nice.
it is warm, it is intimate, it is laced with nostalgia. I mean, I grew up back east in the time frame that this film is set. It is so authentic on every level, especially with what you have done with the lighting and the color, because that's so specific to the East Coast. And it's just absolutely glorious. I felt like I was transported back in time.
Oh, that's very nice to hear.
Where do you and George are getting to be a thing now. Um,
Yes.
what is the magic of collaboration with George Clooney for you that keeps you coming back?
It's almost like a family because it's so much trust and um, also he's a great storyteller and by now this was our third collaboration with him directing.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been to Second World War, we've been to space, we've been to the Arctic, and we've been now to the 70s, 80s Long Island. So it's actually big. You don't find many directors who have that range of stories in them, or who can service that. And he does it so well. That's all.
Oh, he certainly does. I mean, the two of you next, I think you have to go underwater. I think we need an undersea adventure now from the two of you.
We go to the water, but not underwater. We go. Our next thing is Boys in the Boat. We do that together.
Where do you even begin with a film like The Tender Bar? Because this is so different than the extreme conditions and the considerations you had for Midnight Sky. And sometimes I don't know if it's more difficult for you as a cinematographer to capture a specific era with a look and a feel through your lighting and lensing versus the adversity and challenges you face on something like Midnight Sky. It might be picking between, choosing between the devil and the deep blue sea. But where do you start with a film like The Tender Bar in developing your visual look and how you're going to approach this?
Well, what we did is we talked early on about the feel, what this should be, and George was attracted to the humor and to the warm feeling, and he wanted to really do something, especially in these COVID times, he wanted to do something warm and heartfelt. And so I knew that it wouldn't be visual, gimmicky stuff. There is not much action in this. There's no action in this. I think there's. So we had to focus on the characters, and a lot of the period stuff you see these days is so manicured. I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to do an honest film. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but we wanted to be honest and intimate and close to our actors. So that's what we wanted to achieve.
I like the fact that you say that so many of the period films today, they look very manicured, and they do. It doesn't look or feel natural. Now, George and I'm 3 years older than George. So we grew up in this time. We both grew up on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So, number one, I can see why he would want to do this film. But number two, he's got a very vivid memory of what that time was like. So I can understand how he would want the two of you approaching it unmanicured. Because the times were not manicured.
No, no, no. And then it puts me off if I see something so manicured, like, I don't know, some of the TV shows from that time where you go like, this is like, oh, it's just a product. It's not, it doesn't take me there. And then that puts me off sometimes. I mean,
So
there's great crafts to watch, but I don't know. Quite often I find it boring.
something that you do beautifully here that adds to this intimacy that that I feel the entire film is the fact that you really stay away from wide shots. You do a lot. You've got some mid shots. But you really celebrate close-ups and going into zooms. It just brings us even closer to the characters. So I'm curious. Plus, it looks more period appropriate.
Mm. Oh, that's nice. That's what we wanted to do. We looked at a lot of photographs by William Eggleston, and he was a big inspiration. So that chrome look, that warmth very often in his pictures, and then how he photographs normal people in normal environments. That's what we wanted to achieve. So it's not a glorious place, but to him, it's the world, and then that feeling we wanted to get across.
Well, and you definitely succeed, and most particularly in the scenes, actually, as young JR, little Daniel Ranieri,
Mm.
your camera loves him. He just,
Yeah.
he lights up the whole screen. But watching Daniel and Ben together as JR and Uncle Charlie, I mean, it just captures your heart.
Uh,
Wraps it you around their little fingers, and it's beautiful.
yeah. The boy was spectacular. He never acted before, that he's the kid. The He cursed heavily on a TikTok video about the lockup, and that's how um, George. That's how he got George's attention, and then George invited him to be an actor, but he had never acted before, and
Wow.
that's the thing which George loves that because he very often young actors they are everybody tells them what to do, what they
Mm-hmm.
expect to do, and George loved it that he didn't have any idea, and so he took him and taught him very slowly, and after a couple of days he was so good already, and then he got better and better. There's a scene in the car when he finally meets his dad for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
after him all the time in the radio and stuff, and then the dad takes him in for a ride, and we were like, ideally we wanted to shoot it in, there's one car mount on the car, and then the car goes around the block, and it's probably a 2-minute drive, and
Mm-hmm.
then you know the dad kicks him out, and our ambition was to shoot in one, but we were like, oh, it's tough for a young actor, but Daniel pulled it off. Max did great, and then it was really a beautiful scene.
Mm. You have very pivotal, very important scenes here, and
Mm.
much of which we got to credit Kalina Ivanov, production designer, for in terms of the setting. We have the interior of Christoper Lloyd of Grandpop's house. We've
Yeah,
got but the big thing is the bar. But then you
yeah,
bring in, okay, we have some train scenes, the beach, the college dorm, and the bowling alley. How did
yeah.
you get those incredible shots in the bowling alley with the candle pins?
Oh, I think we were in the bowling alley. We spent half a day there only because originally that scene was scripted in a baseball game, but we shot during COVID, so there was no way we could get this crowd together, or we could go to a baseball stadium. So we wanted to do it maybe as a training session in baseball, but then even that was like, oh, what, let's do something else. And then Kalina found this bowling alley, which hasn't been touched since the 70s, and it's the little pins. And then when we saw that, that was really nice. We added a little bit of lighting, but we didn't have to do that much lighting in there because it looked like it was. And then we just went in there. I think we had a half day shooting there, and it was a lot of fun. It was we went with it and we went full in. And in those things, George is always good in getting people to do something normal, and then we're just there watching. And again, we're going back to a little bit of 70s film language by using the zooms, like observational in there, and then commenting every now and then. Sometimes we use them for comedy, but in here we use them for finding the moments people do something.
Yeah, I loved the bowling alley scenes. Really, the lighting is so perfect, and the camera angles are even great. And those zooms that take us right down to the candle pins with the ball, just fabulous, fabulous. But the bulk of this film. Let me talk about the Dickens here, because the bulk of this film is in the bar, I think. And how did you work closely with Kalina in designing the interior of the bar? Because I know that was done on a sound stage. Because your camera angles are constantly varied. We get every perspective in that bar. We've got JR sitting on one end at one point, another end at another point. We have shots from behind the bar, looking out, looking towards the door, away from the door, focusing in on Uncle Charlie's buddies. And I love the way you capture the three guys all together in a shot.
I mean, that is one of the aspects of that, is that we spoke together. Kalina had designs of the bar. We changed a little bit. We tested quite a bit, the sheen on the walls and on the bar, how much we wanted that. And we did some camera tests for that. We decided on the practicals together, and also on the treatment of the windows. And I set up the lighting. So I knew we didn't have much time. B, we were shooting with a 9-year-old, whereas so you don't want to take too much time to light it. And also I felt it should be, I don't know, the camera should be holding back a little bit, because it's their story and it should be real. So we set up some soft boxes. We used the practicals in there. We added some lighting inside. And then a lot of the lighting came from the outside through the windows. So that's how we created different moods, different sun situations. We tried to stay true to where the light would be in the real location, because the house, the exterior we filmed, it would be weird if the sun came from the entry side. So there's never an exterior shot where the sun comes from the wrong directions, and we try to stay true to that in the interior shots. And then the different staging, that's George. That's a lot of that is George, because he's been doing, I don't know, from his emergency room days, from his ER days, they said always the same thing in the same room, but he always looks for something new, and he's not trying to repeat. He would never repeat himself, and that's why he takes some time with the actors to rehearse. I'm usually with him to see what he's doing. Grant is there, his business partner, producing partner, and we're looking with the actors. And then once he has found it with the actors, once he knows what he wants to do, then we know, okay, then we talk about it, and then I'm trying to then be really quick and simple in this specific film, so we can move fast. Give the actors also a chance to get a rhythm, because sometimes, if you do a film and you do one shot, then you have an hour break for the next shot, an hour break for the next shot. It's very hard for them to keep it up, to keep the energy up. But we tried to be fast so they could keep a rhythm and could, develop a relationship, basically.
Well, because the fact that we essentially get to see 360 degrees in the bar with all the different camera angles. And I can't remember the last time I really saw that on screen, big screen or small screen, to get that full 360 of the whole bar environment that's so important. And that really stood out for me because it really shows us everybody's place. Because when you're a regular in a bar, and I know this, you have your favorite area, you have your favorite seats, and you get this person's perspective. And if you have to move to a different seat, well, then you get another perspective. And we really get all of that, but it's all connected with a familial sensation. And I just love how you shot that. I really do. Similarly, when we go into grandfather's house, with, I mean,
that's also, by the way,
that was a set too.
The house interiors, we built that.
I mean, Martin, you had so many doorways and hallways, and the opening scenes where they arrive, where Dorothy and JR arrive at the house, and they go, and JR is walking down the hallway, and the camera is, you're following, and we get corner glimpses into a room that the girl cousins are staying in, and you keep taking us around. You feel the age of that house. That's not new, but then also your lighting is different in the house.
Yeah, we in the house the rooms are much smaller, and it's a set bit. But Kalina's ambition, and that's what she said right on, which was a good thought, which I liked, is that she says, this was a house which blossomed when Grandpa was young, and he didn't change much afterwards. So maybe the couch is from the 50s or something, and then the stuff around the house. There's an old car in which you see once or twice in the background, which is rotten. That's probably from the 40s or 40s, I would say. So it's all there. It's all has been there forever, and nothing really changes. That's why also between 70s and 80s we don't make a change in lighting so much. We don't make a change in that. The only thing which changes in the house is the TV. If everybody, if ever notices, but like I don't know, like my grandparents, they didn't change their. However, I know them, the houses didn't change. The interiors don't change. The sofa, whatever, it's not changing that much, and that's what we wanted to. That's what we decided to do, and then we used, because some of the rooms are so small. We also, there's a stronger use of practicals, even a little bit more than on the other set, which again we tested. In day scenes, we have a lot of the lighting coming from the exterior, and Kalina designed it because the exterior house, that woman who lived there never let us into the house. She was panicked about COVID and then paranoid, and then it was interesting because we never saw the interior. So what Kalina did, she designed it basically from scratch, but in the downstairs area, she gave us all this. It's small, it's tiny rooms, but it's pretty open. So to the kitchen it's open, to the TV room is open, to the dining table it's open. So that's how we could do, almost like again, some shots where you see everything throughout every room.
Yeah, but definitely I could tell that the rooms were small, but that's what that architecture of that period, those were middle class houses when they were built. You were lucky to get them, and they're not big. And again, it's captured so beautifully. Now, did you saturate the color in this one? Because it really does feel like the Polaroid or saturation with possibly that little patina over it.
Yeah, I think we went a bit warmer than we probably usually would, but that's a little bit of the grading choice. We if you look at Eggleston pictures, that he does quite often. His chromochromes feel warm, and then I don't know. It's always something nice. It's Yeah, the warmth of the place we wanted to transmit by the warmth of the colors. So we went a bit warmer, and I think it adds a little bit to the nostalgic. It's almost like thinking of a memory where you go like, oh, this is nice, and maybe a picture, old picture from that time, which could fade a little bit in that direction. But yeah, we went warmer than than we did on previous.
Mm-hmm.
On the, yeah.
Now, what cameras and lenses were you using on this one?
So we used the what's it called, Alexa Minis.
Mm-hmm.
We used Ingenieur Optimo zooms, various ones, the small compact ones. We had a big one as well, and we used Cooke S4 lenses.
Mm-hmm. What led you to those lens choices with this one? Was it fall off or the grain? I'm curious.
A couple of things. So we needed short zooms, smaller zooms, because the rooms were quite small, and we wanted to be able to use zooms in every room. So the external build of the Optimo zooms is really quite nice because they're small and they're compact, and that was one of the main things. The second thing was the Cooke S4. I always like how they fall off and what they do to faces and how soft they are. And then we shot almost everything with ultra contrast filters to soften a little bit the hard contrast of the digital. So we wanted it to be a little bit softer, like some old pictures usually are a little bit softer.
Mm-hmm. No, it's the whole thing is just so beautiful, and you use the word nice, and that's just it. You look at this entire film, Martin, and it looks nice, and it makes you feel warm and happy, despite some of the themes, the underlying themes. It makes you feel nice and happy. It's pleasant, it's enjoyable, and you just want to watch it again. As soon as it ended, I want to see it again.
Oh, nice. That's nice.
What
Yeah.
you don't have that many exteriors, but the ones that you do, you open that up in some really nice wides, but which actually serve like some nice transitions within the film. And I think that's really the only time you really go out wide. And even then, it's not extremely wide. You still
never extremely wide.
You still keep everything relatively contained and intimate. What would you say was the most challenging part of your work in the Tender Bar?
I don't know. It feels pretty easy. Towards the end. We shot maybe two things. Towards the end we shot the New York Times, and we shot that in an office building. Everything is shot around Boston, so we shot that in office building in Worcester, and we couldn't use exterior lights because the was on a slope. The exterior road, it was pretty high up, and so what we ended up doing is we used reflectors. We took out the windows, 10 or 12 windows from the floor above us, and my grips were hanging out reflectors, and we put lights in the street, and we're bouncing into the reflectors to get soft light coming into the building. That's when he's talking to his chief editor, and when he's talking for the application, and all those scenes in the New York Times. That was one of the. That's also interesting because due to COVID, we only had a limited amount of extras. We could never do a big space, so we had to make a small office space look big and busy and period, and yeah.
Wow.
That was one challenge we had. Yeah.
Wow, that's a big challenge, Martin.
Yeah.
That's a big challenge. Wow. Was there anything about the Tender Bar that really challenged your skills that you learned something new about?
Um, those reflectors, because this is basically, we use the reflectors from the light bridge system.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know that from Christian Berger, the Austrian DP, Mark Haneke's DP. He developed this system where you know, these special reflectors. That was something I hadn't used, and I wouldn't also think that it would be possible to use that on a scale like that. So that was a nice new thing for me. No, I think it's not that complicated a film. It's not that big, and it's not nothing we haven't done before. So other than that, but I don't know. I enjoyed doing a film which was actor driven, which was small and intimate, and it was so also so good that we could do it during COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gave you something to do. You didn't have to
Yeah,
be you didn't have to be totally bored. I've got one last question for you, Martin.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite moment in this film? And if so, what is it?
Um, I like that moment when the young JR meets the old JR. You know, that vision when he had
Mm-hmm.
what he's drinking, and that was an improvised moment. George made that up. It's not in the script. Uh, it's not there in the book. It doesn't exist. But I like that moment because it's funny and it's hilarious, and I just like how they play together.
Yeah, I mean that's a beautiful moment. And
Yeah,
Daniel, he brings this little bit of "I told you so" kind of attitude that works so well in that moment. But I love how you have the camera framed and go back and forth on them. But especially when we get a profile almost of the two of them looking at each other, and it's so spectacular.
yeah,
Where past meets future, and basically slaps you upside your head and says you better
yeah.
straighten up.
And
Oh,
there's, yeah, I love that, and I don't know, it was great working with Ben. He's amazing in this. I love how he was, also how he was on set, and no, it was a great experience. This,
well, quickly, let me ask you then. You mentioned Ben, who I think this is one of the best performances of his career, quite honestly. Because Ben is also a director, do you
yeah.
like working with actors who are also directors? Does that help you, hinder you? Is that a good thing?
Um, in this case, I think it was good because he was always very interested in what we would do and how we would do it. He watched closely, and we would chat every now and then around, why would I do this and how would you do that? And then we talked about his films and my film. It was really nice when we had a chance, that we moved quickly, but every now and then we had a moment. And I really enjoyed it because he was so helpful and so easy to work with, because I think that's because he knows how it is as a director.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a real, I don't know, pleasure, colleague. I loved it. And then with George, it's great anyway, because George also, the good thing about George is he's quick in taking decisions. He's not shy of doing that if he sees something he likes, and he's very visual as well, because sometimes actors who turn directors, they're not visual, but George always tries to find something which is fun, and which explores the thing, like I don't know, the opening shot.
Mm-hmm.
He always had that as an idea. We follow that car, and we end in a close up of the boy, and I love it. It's it's almost a whole film in one shot, and he has those shots. Quite often, he has those shots in mind, and then yeah,
I have to admit, I did like seeing the mattress flapping on the top of the car.
yeah,
Open
me too.
open with a laugh. Because
Yeah,
how many times have we all driven down the road, and at some point in your life, you're going to see something like that?
yeah, exactly.
Oh, Martin, thank you so, so much. It is always such a pleasure and a privilege to get to talk to you. And once
Oh.
again, job so well done on the Tender Bar. And I can't wait for the next one with you and George.
Yeah, we talk next year then.
Yes, we will. Oh, Martin. Thank you, Martin. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.